Yo, I'm Yovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to another Lakers postgame reaction show. I just got back from Crypto.com Arena, where the Lakers finally did it. They finally beat the Denver Nuggets, snapping an 11-game losing streak and getting back into this series, getting their first win on the board. They beat the Nuggets 119 to 108. They now trail the series 3-1, but that is better than getting swept. The series will now go back to Game 5 in Denver on Monday, and the Lakers have some life. This was a spirited performance from the group. They led wire to wire. This was a spirited performance by the group. They did not let go of the rope in the second half. Denver cut it to 7 points late in the third quarter, and it looked like the exact same movie. And all of a sudden, LA responded late, and they extended the lead to 11 going into the fourth quarter, which was their biggest lead going into the fourth in the series. And they maintained their composure. They continued to score. That was a big thing. I asked Anthony Davis about the mental side of this victory and just killing that narrative of you guys can't beat Denver and sort of proving to themselves that they can beat this team. They're not infallible. And Anthony Davis said that for him, it was more so just the scoring in the second half. LA scored 58 second half points, which is the most they have scored in the second half in this series. They've increasingly scored more in the second half throughout the series. 45 points in game 1, 40 in game 2, 52 in game 3, and then 58 in game 4. And they were only outscored by 2 points in the third quarter, which is progress, right? The Lakers will take that. And I think a lot of people felt the Lakers were about to get swept. I know the fan base was pretty down about it. I know last video I was talking about this is probably a 4 or 5 game series. And while I still think it is probably a 5-game series and that the Lakers are potentially about to walk into a buzzsaw in Denver for a hungry Denver team that just got punched in the mouth for the first time, I think the Lakers also have a lot of confidence on their side. And the fact that they've been leading for a majority of this series, which I will touch on in one of my takeaways. But as LeBron said after game 3, it is a game-by-game process in terms of making a comeback within a series. And all the Lakers can do is play and prepare and win the game in front of them. They can't win the whole series in one game, but they can lose the whole series in one game at this point. So I thought the fact that they took care of business in game 4, led wire to wire, and had the performances that they did from the starters, from some of the bench guys, and continue to play relatively good defense against Denver and altering the looks of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and forcing them into turnovers. It was just an impressive performance from LA and the type of emphatic win that they needed. I think to it would be one thing if maybe it was similar to game 2 where they had a big lead, they blew it, and maybe they eke it out, and the vibe would be still positive that the season wasn't over, but not as positive just because of the circumstances. But I think the fact that they withstood several blows from Denver in the second half, in terms of, again, cutting the deficit to 7 late in the third quarter, and then LA responded well from that point. And then again in the fourth quarter, Denver got it to about 8 with just under 2 minutes remaining, and Lakers could have collapsed there. They could have folded, and yet they didn't. So Lakers deserve credit for doing what they needed to do to extend the season and playing clearly their best game of the series. So we shall see in terms of what happens moving forward. I think it all comes down to game 5, and I know that is an obvious statement. If the Lakers lose, their season is over. But if they can win in game 5 in Denver, all of a sudden that shifts a lot of the momentum in their favor. They're not coming back for a game 6 in LA. They've won a couple games in a row. They can point to, we've been up for a majority of the series, and it still will be a must win in game 6 and then a must win again in game 7. And perhaps we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but I think if the Lakers can somehow find a way to withstand Denver's blows again in game 5 and win in that environment, which you know is going to be hostile, you know they're going to be foaming at the mouth to beat the Lakers and chant, "Who's your daddy?" and send them home this time in Denver. If LA can find a way to win in that environment, I think it dramatically shifts things. And again, all of a sudden it's a 2-game series, one in LA, one in Denver. and you have all this confidence. So a lot between now and then, right? So you guys know the drill. Let's hit on some of the numbers from this game, and then we'll get into our 3 takeaways. Quickly, I just want to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing and liking and commenting on this video if you're enjoying it. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please consider following, downloading, and leaving a 5-star review if you're enjoying this episode. Okay, so a lot of numbers to get into here for the Lakers. Some good numbers for a change in this series. Anthony Davis, 25 points, 23 rebounds, 6 assists, only 1 turnover, 1 block, 11 to 17 shooting, 3 for 4 from the free throw line. AD continues to be amazing. I would say he's been a top 3 player in the playoffs, right behind Nikola Jokic. And I don't even know who number 2 would be, or right there with him. Maybe Anthony Edwards off the top of my head. Joel Embiid just had a big game 3. But I would say AD, with the two-way performance that he's had against Jokic, and scoring on him and then defending him on the other end, taking on that assignment the last 3 games, really, I think it's been really impressive, and shows just the caliber of player that Anthony Davis is. That, again, I think he's in the conversation for best player in the playoffs right now. LeBron James, though, led the Lakers in scoring, 30 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Did have 6 turnovers, so he continues to be a bit reckless with the ball. And that's been a issue for him really all season, but especially recently. So more turnovers than assists, which is rare for LeBron. But he was 14 of 23 from the floor. He scored 14 of his points in the fourth quarter. Really took over. 18 of his 23 attempts were in the paint, which just shows the mindset that LeBron had in this one of posting up, attacking mismatches. He was hitting his turnaround, 0 for 2 on 3s, so didn't have it from deep tonight, and hasn't really had it from deep for most of the series. But again, he played bully ball tonight, getting to the rim, getting downhill in the pick and roll. All 4 of his assists were to Anthony Davis, so he was doing a good job finding him with pocket passes, had a lob pass and a couple of nice passes through traffic to get AD easy buckets at the rim. So another solid performance for LeBron. The defense continues to be shaky. I think he, again, 5 rebounds. You want to see it more from him, although that was because Anthony Davis had exactly half of the Lakers' rebounds with his 23. Should note that the 23 rebounds for AD tied his playoff career high. But LeBron, I think that the rebounding, some of his rotations as the low man, sometimes when he's defending MPJ, he can lose him. So the defense continues to be up and down for the most part. But I think when he's giving you these types of performances in terms of the scoring output and taking over in the fourth quarter the way that he did to maintain and preserve the lead, you got to live with it. Rui Hachimura only played 22 minutes, 9 points, 4 rebounds. He did hit a 3-pointer in the left corner, which is become his little spot, but had a couple of nice baseline cuts. Lakers did, and LeBron did as well. Lakers have really been timing their cuts from the corners well, in terms of there'll be an initial action like a pick and roll or a guy getting downhill, and then Rui, LeBron, those have been the 2 primary guys, but they will cut at the right moment where Denver's low man or the weak side guy, like whoever's in that spot, sometimes it's a strong side guy, sometimes it's a weak side guy, but they will rotate over or rotate up to a shooter, and all of a sudden Rui or LeBron is cutting for a dunk, a layup, a foul, etc. So I thought Rui, like, his defense has been rough in this series, especially lately. Like against Jokic, it's just, that's the best player in the world and arguably the best post player in the world. He's in that conversation. It's between him and Embiid. And like, there's just not much Rui can do. But I think it's been more so been his defense against Michael Porter Jr. In terms of overhelping, trailing him around screens and failing to rear view contest or just stick with him. That's been a bit of an issue. I still would like to see the minutes up a little bit more, especially with he was second best plus minus on the team with plus 13. And I thought the fact that he kind of got it going offensively, I would have liked to see him play a little bit more, and Darvin almost went back to him in the fourth quarter and then decided to decided to not put him back in and go with Taurean Prince, who closed the game. But I would like to see a little bit more Rui. I've been saying that now, that even with him not playing great, there's a size element and a physicality element that, like, he's had some bad moments defensively again and on the glass and in the paint, but he's still bigger than the alternatives of Taurean Prince, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Gabe Vincent. And I think even if those guys might have some more physical moments overall, I'd rather go with the bigger guy and the guy who I know is just the better player in general. But that's a nitpick for Game 5 and beyond. Austin Reeves had 21 points and 6 assists, 7 for 15 from the floor. Was the only starter who did not shoot at least 50%. He's really struggled on his threes, was just 1 for 6, but made up for it by getting to the free throw line 6 times, making all 6 of his free throws. Had a big shot late that basically iced the game. D'Lo bounced back, so he's now had a yo-yo series. Played 41 minutes, was just behind AD for the team lead. AD played 42. LeBron played 39. Austin only played 30, and really it was 29 and a half. I thought that was odd. Was not in foul trouble. I don't know if the Lakers are just trying to save his legs, but bounce back performance from D'Lo, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, had a steal. He shot 8 of 15 overall. He made 4 threes, and he deserves credit for this performance. As I said after Game 3, I don't think this will excuse the performances in Game 1 and Game 3, given how important he is to this team, especially offensively. I still think the defense is a bit of an issue. There was a couple times late he got lost on KCP, once in transition and once where I thought Jokic had several crazy assists in this game, but I thought the most impressive one was that wraparound left-handed single hand pass he had to KCP in the corner, where D'Lo is just cheating off of him. He is asleep off the ball, and KCP gets a wide open 3 because D'Lo is not paying attention. And I think the defense has been. It's been like there are some good moments, and I think the doubling and the rotating, and he's been active with his deflections and trying to get in passing lanes. But in terms of tracking his man and chasing around screens and some of the off-ball defense in that sense, I think he continues to struggle, and getting beat downhill and stuff like that. But you will take this shooting performance from him, and you got to hope that it translates or carries over to Denver for Game 5. And this isn't an every other game type deal with him, but a solid bounce back performance. Was a team best plus 15 on the floor. Off the bench, Gabe Vincent continues to, I think, do a good job against Jamal Murray. He's defended him the best, in my opinion, in this series. Made a key three-pointer. I mentioned that Denver cut it to 7, and Gabe Vincent got a 3 in the right corner to extend the lead back to 10 and give the Lakers some breathing room in a critical stretch of the game, the third quarter, where LA tends to blow the lead. And Taurean Prince played 29 minutes, was just under 30, 1 second more, and he would have rounded up. 9 points, 3 rebounds. I think he continues to, like, the part of Taurean's game that has, in my opinion, really improved throughout the season has been his pump and go and attacking closeouts. And he had a couple of nice finishes at the rim. He's had several in this series. Also made a crucial 3-pointer. And I think the defense, it's been better than Rui's. I still would not say it's been good. There were several times where he had miscommunications. You could tell with Anthony Davis in the Jokic MPJ 2-man game, where one time he switched on to Jokic, leaving MPJ wide open for a 3. It could have been AD's fault. I'm going to guess that the Lakers' best defensive player was not making a mistake in that instance. So that was a mistake. And then another time he stayed with MPJ, but then didn't switch, and AD thought he was switching, and then Jokic got an open 3. So I think, like, some of the communication stuff has been an issue for the Lakers, and I think Denver had an off shooting night and it didn't make them pay as much as they could have, and Denver's frankly had an off shooting night for most of the series. I mean, they've yet to really shoot well in any game other than that second half comeback in Game 2. But Taurean, I mean, if I'm nitpicking, I still think 29, almost 30 minutes is a little bit too much. He played 2 fewer seconds than Austin. I don't think that should be happening in an essentially elimination game, but Torian has been playing solid. He's been the Lakers' best bench player overall in this series. And while I think that the rebounding could be better and the defense could be better, he is certainly helping on the offensive end and is just moving the chains with his drives. He had an assist, and I think he's been creating assist opportunities that, shots, open shots for teammates that aren't necessarily falling. That's not his fault. So he's done it solid, especially again with the closeouts and attacking off the dribble. Spencer Dinwiddie played 14 minutes, just 1 point, 3 fouls. He's been, I think solid defensively, all things considered, but still is not really impacting the game offensively. The Lakers dusted the cobwebs off Jackson Hayes after he was a DNP CD in Game 3. He played 6 minutes, missed a couple shots. Lakers are going to post up for him, which I never want to see again. Please do not run a post up for Jackson, even if he has a mismatch. He almost airballed his hook shot out of the post. 3 rebounds for him, though, and had an assist. I think Jackson, out of the short roll, continues to show some improved playmaking, and I think that's all really Lakers need. Like, if anything, you could play him maybe a little bit more, play him a little bit next to AD, but yeah, I mean, Christian Wood was technically cleared for this game. He did not play, so we'll see if he ends up playing Game 5 in Denver. I might doubt it at this point, given that he's missed over 2 months. It might be curtains for Christian Wood. We shall see, though. I was surprised. Like, I thought, given his clearance, that he would probably play in this game. Then looking at some of the team metrics, LA shot 52%. Denver shot 45%. LA made 8 threes, shot 31% on them. Denver made 9 threes, shot 30%. Denver continues to get to the free throw line more than Lakers. Denver was 21 of 25, 84%. Lakers were 15 of 18, 83%. So Denver's won the free throw battle in 3 of the 4 games for all you free throw conspiracy theorists. And then quickly on Denver, Nikola Jokic had the quietest 33, 14, and 14 performance I've maybe ever seen. He just walks into that. Did have his least efficient game from a shooting perspective. Was 10 for 20, so still 50%, but I think he had been 59% or higher in the previous 3 games. Jamal Murray had 22, 6, and 5, but shot 9 for 23. So again, he's been in this like 9 for 24 range for most of the series, and give you plus minus like 1 or 2 shots. So LA has really done a good job on him and kept him sub 40% in all 4 games. And outside of that fourth quarter in Game 2, he has really struggled in this series. And it's been a combination of Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, Spencer Dinwiddie, all doing a good job and forcing him into tough shots. And I don't want Laker fans to get on me for jinxing it, but he is due for a big game in terms of just like not shooting under 40%. I know he's a little banged up and has not been himself physically, but he still is getting some pretty good looks. So like 0 for 4 on 3 tonight. I think Jamal is unfortunately due for a big game. Maybe it's not Game 5. Maybe it's a later game in the series. But I think the Lakers are going to have to deal with a regression to the mean at some point with Jamal Murray. I don't think it's been like they played good defense on him. I don't think it's been exclusively the defense. I think he's missed some very makeable shots. Aaron Gordon had 7 points and 3 rebounds after a career best performance with 29 points, a playoff career high, and 15 rebounds. Had 0 offensive rebounds. So you got to give the Lakers a shout out there. They won the rebounding battle 46-40. When I was going through the team stats, I don't know how I missed that one. Denver had 9 offensive rebounds to 8 for LA. But second chance points were 14-5 in LA's favor. Denver was just 2 for 9 on second chance opportunities. LA was 6 for 9. So, I mean, no offensive rebounds for Aaron Gordon. Like, Lakers need to throw a parade for that one. Like, that's almost as impressive as the win, given how much he's kicked their ass on the glass. MPJ 27 and 11. That's where I'm like, he was 10 for 20, but it's a combination of Rui, LeBron, and Torian. All 3 guys, their off-ball defense, their screen navigation, their tracking is subpar for the most part. And MPJ is just like, and even tonight, like I thought he missed a bunch of good looks. I went back and rewatched on Synergy, and this is what I do after every game before these videos. Like I go back and rewatch the offensive possessions for some of the principal figures in the game. And MPJ had several open threes he missed. I was just 4 for 11 on threes, like several open jumpers. The Lakers really struggle with, like, when someone's around him, he could shoot over them just because he's 6'10" and has a 7-foot wingspan and a high release point. But it's also like LA continues to just lose him off the ball, and that's something that is he's a bit concerning. Like, given he's had flames shooting out of his ass for most of the series, but it still feels like he could be shooting even better. But LA will take it. Takeaway number one is the Nuggets can bleed. And I think that we can talk about the X's and O's, and we can talk about the offensive performance of the Lakers, especially in the second half, and them responding well to Denver, making a couple runs and reducing the size of those runs. And we talk about the rotation or closing with this player, this player's minutes, all that stuff. And that's the stuff we typically talk about on this show. But for me, there was a mental element to this series and really this matchup for the last year plus. The Lakers had halftime leads in 7 of the 11 losses during the streak. They had halftime leads in all 3 of the losses in this series. They had double-digit leads in the 3 losses. So, like, LA has played really well, and I don't want to spoil another one of my takeaways, but the fact that they have blown so many leads and gotten out executed by the Nuggets in close games, and it just felt like the Nuggets were infallible, and the Lakers just couldn't beat them. And the fact that they finally punched back. If this was a heavyweight boxing bout, the Lakers lost the first 3 rounds, and they were close. It was a couple of 10-9 rounds, maybe a 10-8 round. They'd be winning the round, and then there'd be a flurry from the Nuggets to end up winning the round. But in this case, I think they won this round a solid 10-8, and they made the Nuggets bleed. They punched them in the mouth. They busted their lip, and the Nuggets are human. They are not unbeatable. They are not this perfect team that you cannot compete with. And Lakers have done a good job competing with them. They've not done a good job beating them. And I think finally breaking through the hurdle, AD used the term monkey off their back. I just think that psychological component here that is an intangible that you can't quantify. You can just observe and see how tight the Lakers would get when the Nuggets would go on a run. Even tonight, there was stretches where they did get a little tight, but they ultimately made shots, made plays, and responded well. And I think it is like a confidence boost for sure to win a game and to win a game in the fashion that they did. But I think the mental side of this, they fought back against the bully, they punched them in the face, and they got some blood. And in that sense, it's like a victory. They won the round, and they still got 3 more rounds to win if they want to pull off the impossible and be the first team to beat an opponent after trailing 3-0 in a series. And really, we can talk about how it should probably be 2-2 had the Lakers not blown that 20-point second half lead in game 2. But I think the fact, like, this was important for the Lakers to not have their season be over, but this was also important for the Lakers to just get over that mental hump with Denver. I think, again, the psychological battle within all this, like, it's hard to quantify, but the Lakers on some level, I mean, they were aware of the record. Every time they lose to Denver, it adds to the ledger of now, you've lost 8 in a row. Now you've lost 9 in a row, 10 in a row, 11 in a row. And it just kept adding up. And at some point, it was like the Lakers are going to break the record at some point, but it was nice that it was in the playoffs and not entering, maybe it's the opening night matchup again next year. And it's like, if Denver's the defending champions and now the Lakers, they've lost 12 in a row and they got swept back-to-back year. And like, they got rid of that. That narrative's gone, and there's still a mountain to climb to get over this team and to get through this series. But I just think that this was a big win for the Lakers mentally as much as anything. And even if they end up losing this series in 5, I think winning this game will pay dividends down the road in potential Denver matchups where it's not going to be the same haunting thought of, are we going to blow this lead? Are we going to beat, like, and again, maybe it happens again in game 5 and it does bring back some of those demons. But I just think the Lakers killed the narrative that they can't beat the Nuggets. And now it is a 3-game series. They have to win all 3. And you could make an argument that they could have won any of the other 3 that they've lost. Again, leads at halftime, double-digit leads in all 3 games. I think game 1, like, Denver took over in the third quarter. That's one where you put that one aside. Game 2, LA obviously blew that game, should not have lost that game. In game 3, Denver took the lead early in the third and was pretty much in control the rest of the way. So I don't think that's a game that LA necessarily blew, but I think they blew game 2. And with this game in game 2, like, Lakers should be 2-2 right now. And the fact that they're not, that speaks to some of the, in my opinion, psychological elements with Denver of just getting tight and the moment being too big in game 2. But also, I think some of the coaching decisions in terms of not continuing to attack Denver with Anthony Davis in the pick and roll, using AD as a decoy. Part of that's on LeBron, part of that's on the coaching staff. LeBron was dictating a lot of the actions there. And then, of course, guys tightening up, turnovers, missing shots. So, like, there's a lot of reasons why the Lakers lost game 2, and we don't have to rehash that. But it's relevant just because they won a game. They've been leading for a majority of the series, which I'm about to touch on. I will just say, though, I think the fact that they made the Nuggets bleed is a good thing for the Lakers mentally. And whether it pays off in game 5, whether they can stretch the series to 6 or 7, whatever, whether they can win the series, I just think it's good that they finally conquered that demon and they could just move forward now. And now this is a team just down 3-1 in a series. It's not this narrative of you can't beat Denver, you always choke against them, and they're in your head. Like, all those talking points and narratives, like, all that stuff is gone. And now it's just basketball. And I think that was big for the Lakers. All right, so takeaway number 2 is 70.8%. And let me explain. So I'm going to read you some numbers here, and you're probably not going to like them if you're a Lakers fan, but I have to do it anyway. And this is partly courtesy of ESPN. I updated the numbers because their graphic wasn't up to date in terms of the full game 4 and the full series. So the Lakers have led for 136 minutes, which is 70.8% of this series, despite being down 1-3 in the series. Denver has led for 41 minutes and 53 seconds, and the score has been tied for 14 minutes and 7 seconds. So the Lakers have led for almost 71% of the series, which is just insane when you think about it. The fact that they're down 3-1 and have led for over 2/3 of the series, like, that is just mind-boggling. That speaks to their second half collapses, their fourth quarter collapses, and just how much they've actually outplayed Denver with these hot starts. And Denver not being able to contain them in pick and rolls, contain them in dribble drives and getting downhill. Lakers living in the paint, not living at the free throw line as much as typical, but it's really been a matter of turnovers, missed shots, rebounding, and Denver's clutch shot making in game 2 that has made this series go in Denver's favor. But I think if you're the Lakers and if you're a Laker fan looking for some optimism for game 5, looking for some optimism for this series to at least push it to 6 or 7, or again, maybe even pull off the impossible comeback, I think you got to look at that and say the fact that we've been able to lead this series for as much as we have speaks to LA having some advantages in this matchup that they didn't always have. And I think that's mainly their offense has just been much better since the starting lineup adjustment and the 5-out offense really clicking for the guys, and really their second half of the season improvement offensively. To me, this is the best their offense has looked in general against Denver for a sustained period, especially these first halves, first quarters, when they're often leading and even by double digits. The biggest thing has been the offense and that improvement. And I think that's how they were able to win this game, was they didn't stop scoring, as AD said. But the fact that they've been, if they continue to lead by 71% of the series the rest of the way, they might mess around and win another game or two and push this to 6 or 7. So I think that is the biggest source of optimism for the Lakers right now. I think it's the combination of they finally beat the Nuggets, and they've really been kicking the Nuggets' ass for most of this series. And Denver has not played particularly well. They've really struggled to shoot. I felt that in this game, there were so many shots that Denver normally makes against the Lakers that they stopped making. And after watching that movie 11 times, you thought they were never going to miss those shots. But KCP, playoff P'd in the left corner, had a wide open 3 hit the side of the backboard. It was almost like a bank shot attempt. I'm not even sure what it was, but I call it the playoff P. And then Jokic missed several point blank shots in terms of like those little fadeaways or little putback shots that he typically he makes at like 70+%, 75+%. He's one of the most efficient finishers in the league. Has killed the Lakers on those shots, like little tip ins and stuff like that. He missed several of those. Again, was 10 for 20, his worst shooting performance of the series. And so I think Denver is due. As I mentioned, Jamal Murray, they're due to make more open shots. I think they've shot pretty poorly I think they're shooting under 30% on threes for the series. So that is something that is they shot almost 38% on threes in the regular season. And I'm gonna be honest, it's not because of the Lakers defense. The Lakers 3-point defense continues to be, in my opinion, pretty bad. They are funneling the ball to certain shooters, and there are certain guys that you want taking certain shots. Like Aaron Gordon went 0 for 2, and you will live with that. And in fact, you want Aaron Gordon shooting, and you want to encourage him to take more of those types of shots. But I think Denver, between Jokic, KCP, Murray, and MPJ, those guys have all missed very makeable open shots. They are due for a better shooting performance. So that'd be my one concern. That just coming out of this game, I was like, I just don't see how Denver continues to shoot this poorly the rest of the series. I know the Lakers have had their own shooting struggles, so we could have an offensive explosion where both teams go for 130 in Game 5. I would not rule that out. And I don't want to make it sound like the Lakers have had things go against them, especially the free throws. I think the Lakers have not gotten a great whistle in this series for the most part. So 72 points in the paint. They were 36 of 56. So they missed 20 shots in the paint. And I think at least 5 of those, if not more, you could have called fouls on. So the Lakers, again, I'm not saying it's only Denver that can play better. I think the Lakers can play better. Obviously, D'Lo has had a couple of rough games. Austin hasn't been making threes at the same rate. LeBron's jumper hasn't always been there. There's the free throws. So there are certain things that LA can do better as well. I try to keep the observations balanced and not just say, well, the Lakers figured all this stuff out and Denver can't do. Denver can adjust, and I think part of the adjustment is just making more shots, and it is that simple. Of Denver, I think, has continued to run their offense at a high level. The turnovers have been concerning for them, and they can certainly take care of the ball better. But they are still generating some high percentage looks. They're just not making them, and part of that is the Lakers defense, and they deserve some credit, but part of that has just been some rotten luck in terms of shot making. So outside of crunch time, I say all this to say, if you want to be optimistic about the Lakers at least extending this to 6 games or 7, and at least having a theoretical shot in Game 5, to me, I just look at that 70.8% number. Think about how well LA has played, especially for first halves and first 2.5 quarters of pretty much every game. And that's a reason for optimism. So if LA can look at their second half from Game 4 and figure out a way to replicate that in Game 5, in Game 6, in Game 7, I think they have a shot to at least extend this series and maybe put some pressure on Denver of, you win Game 5, all of a sudden Game 6, the pressure is don't lose this and go back to Denver for a Game 7 situation against LeBron, where all the pressure, yes, the pressure is still on the Lakers. They don't want to lose and have their season end, but now Denver has the pressure of, you don't want to be the first team to blow a 3-0 series lead. And of course, again, getting ahead of ourselves, the Lakers have to win Game 5. They lost both games in Denver. They're 0-3 in Denver this year. They've been a below 500 road team. So I'm not saying the Lakers are going to win Game 5 necessarily. I'm just saying they can look at, we've led for a lot of the series, and how can we reduce the mistakes that have let Denver get back into the game, other than them just getting hot and executing their offense at a high level. And finally, takeaway number 3 is Anthony Davis deserves his flowers. And I mentioned it earlier in the show, but AD has been fucking awesome. And that is the first F-bomb I have dropped on this show, on my channel, on my podcast. And AD deserves it. AD's got me cussing on camera because, 11 for 17. He was efficient, got to the free throw line, 3 for 4, 3 offensive rebounds, 20, had more than half of the Lakers' defensive rebounds, had 20 of the 38, 23 rebounds, tying his playoff career high. Anthony Davis has a largely matched Nikola Jokic. Again, I think overall, Jokic has been the better player with some of his crunch time shot making. With actually, he's had to defend AD too. Like they both are going. It's a head-to-head matchup for the most part now. LA will still have their possessions where Rui's on him, and Aaron Gordon has defended AD a bit as well. But it's been a lot of mano-a-mano, and I don't want to dismiss Jokic 33, 14, and 14. So like he is the offensive hub of Denver to say the least, really. And the 14 assists, a lot of those weren't even like double teams where the Lakers made mistakes. Like there were a couple, but he's finding cutters and shooters against set defense and making the Lakers pay for any mistakes that they make. So I think Jokic has been the best player in the series by a smidge. And I think, he's probably been the best player in the playoffs overall. He's the best player in the world right now, but AD has gone toe to toe. He's been right there with him. And I think AD, he's a very divisive, polarizing player for various reasons. He's had the street clothes nickname. He's had the AD alternating days or every other, whatever. He's had those nicknames. And anytime AD has a bad game, it is under scrutiny. It will lead the sports talk shows and radio shows and podcasts. And a lot of people tend to focus on what AD can't do versus what he can do. But I think he's been great in this series. I think he's been the Lakers' best player this season. I think he's been the Lakers' best player in this series when factoring in, like LeBron's had a couple of better offensive performances overall, but I think when you factor in the workload that AD has to carry defensively, often being flanked by several minus defenders or like average defenders at best, and the fact that he's keeping the Lakers afloat largely just with his rim protection and him putting out all these fires defensively. And look, Jokic will score on him, and like there's nothing he can do about it. Jokic is, again, maybe the best post player in the world, maybe the best post scorer in the world. And like he can score on AD seemingly at will at times, but AD has had good defensive stretches against him, has been able to bother him a bit with his length and athleticism, and has really taken it to him on the other end and been able to score on him. So I just think AD, he gets a lot of flack, and game 2, the second half, in my opinion, upon rewatching the game and looking at the Lakers strategy, they mismanaged that game. And I said it earlier, I put part of that on LeBron. I put part of that on Darvin and the coaching staff. You could put part of that on AD. He could have been more aggressive or called his own number or demanded the ball or say, I'm not going to be in the corner. But he was being told to go in the corner a lot of the time to drag Aaron Gordon out, to then allow the Lakers to target Nikola Jokic defensively in pick and rolls with Rui. But Rui is not the same level of roller, finisher, offensive threat from a gravity perspective that AD is, obviously. And he did not play well in the second half in that game. So I think AD, 1 for 5 in that second half, after he made his first few shots of the third quarter to start the game, 14 of 15, made 14 consecutive shots. Like part of that, I'm not going to absolve AD entirely. I do think that he can be a bit more assertive and aggressive with some of that stuff. But I also think as a big man, and as a big man who rarely, like Lakers will, he'll sometimes grab it and go, or he'll sometimes take an inbounds pass and bring it up the floor. But for the most part, he's not Jokic. He's not the point guard of the team. He's not running the offense that way necessarily. Like they will do dribble handoffs and pick and roll stuff with him and let him operate out of the short roll. I just think that like AD gets a lot of flack for what he can't do. And I think he's been clearly the second best player in this series. And it has been, in my opinion, relatively close. Again, I give Jokic the nod, but like AD has been right there and matched him, if not outplayed him for various stretches of the games and of the series. So like, I just think AD deserves his flowers. I think he's had a great season. I think I don't want to say it's better than 2020 because the jump shooting and the athleticism and like he was probably just physically and shooting wise at a different level in 2020. The Lakers won the championship and they were better with him on the floor. And he also played a lot more power forward outside of crunch time and fourth quarters and stuff when the Lakers would play him more at center. But I say all that to say, like, I think this is probably AD's second best season as a Laker. I just think if the Lakers continue to extend this series or have any chance in game 5, I think it's because Anthony Davis and his defense against Jokic, the offensive load he's carrying, and then also the load in the paint of he's having these like 15 plus rebound games where he's having to battle Jokic, Aaron Gordon, MPJ, Like the Lakers have not done a great job with boxing out and rotating and hitting people. And AD's been one of the few constants there. So I just think AD, you got me to drop my first F-bomb. Sorry for those who don't like cursing, but I felt like I had to do it. And it's just AD's been awesome. AD's been great. He deserves acknowledgement. There really has not been much you can criticize him for other than not being able to stop the best offensive player and best player in the world. That will do it for tonight's show. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a positive or negative show. At times in that second half, it was potentially looking like it was going to be another collapse, but the Lakers ended up holding on and forcing a game 5. I will be traveling to Denver tomorrow, so not quite sure. I might do a live stream or a Q&A tomorrow. If not, I might do it Monday, actually. But also, I will be doing a mailbag for Monday. So if you have questions, drop them below on YouTube, or you can hit me on Twitter. If you're listening to the audio version, either comment on the YouTube video or let me know on Twitter. But thank you again for watching and listening. If you're on YouTube, again, please be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like and comment. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast platform of choice, be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back on Monday with episode 18 of Buha's Block. I will talk to you then.